Welcome back to the Sovereign Society podcast. I'm your guide, Sabrina Riccio. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see that I am in my favorite corner in my house at the Creosote Casita, filming this episode, which is a very, very powerful message that I'm excited to be sharing, especially with the holidays here. And talking about the truth about understanding that you are the sacred disruptor for your lineage. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about. And actually, choosing to be a sacred disruptor of my lineage and healing my family was what sparked my spiritual quest. And that was 10 years ago. And it's just been really interesting because I recently got diagnosed with focal epilepsy, and that was really hard to process. It's still been quite the journey. As I record this, I'm just like days after, and being back in my house and being around all my things and reflecting, and especially because this was where I had my first seizure, was in this house. And it's been interesting because I don't want to make this episode about me, by the way, but I do want to share this piece. It's just been interesting because when I knew I wanted to heal my family, and I'm someone who's had a history of sexual trauma, who's had a history of excruciating periods and cramps, and now come to find when I was doing all these tests that my hormones are so off and in balance. And a huge piece of why I've been getting these seizures is called catamenial epilepsy, which is around your cycle. And my seizures have happened always before my period, where we could literally like jot down or like kind of be aware of what the window is of getting my a seizure in the past, because I've had over 20 of them now. It's all due to my period. And it's interesting because, well, I want to get like a hormone specialist on this podcast. What's been interesting is that devoting my life to healing my lineage so that my children don't have to deal with my karma, and saying that it ends with me, it's a big feat. So I just want to say, if you're someone who's been devoted to your healing journey because you're saying it ends with you and you don't want this to continue on for future generations, I honor you, because I know the ride, I know the journey, and it's far from easy. This is the work that fueled me to create my program, Thrive. And if you want to embark on that journey, it's a very affordable experience for the quality of healing that will come from it. Ask anyone who's taken Thrive and they'll tell you it will change your life. I've seen it. It's changed mine. And it was a huge inspiration. It was a major catalyst of inspiration for me to even write my book, which I'm focusing on a lot in 2023 to get published. But again, the bigger piece, I think being a firstborn in my lineage and being a first generation to go to, like the first one of my lineage to go to college, there's been a lot of that drive to heal myself for my lineage. But like I said, I pushed away the love of my life because I needed to embark on my healing journey, and that's all I knew at that time. And what I can tell you is that when you decide to do and embark on this path, and you may know this, you may not know this, but you're clearing out 7 generations before you and 7 generations to come. That's a huge piece. And I want to talk about this because, especially like dealing with hormones and recognizing that the part of my brain where I've been diagnosed with epilepsy, and a part of me still having a hard time with it because I do believe it's been very spiritually based, because that's been a place where I've been vulnerable. and have really had a lot of insecurities around my sexuality for some time. But knowing that that part of my brain is where trauma is stored and the amount of trauma I've had, I've chosen that my trauma stories, drama, whatever, are done and that they no longer serve me. Because there comes a point, I've talked about it in the past couple episodes, where you say enough is enough. And there comes a point where you say, this ends with me. And when you decide to say enough is enough and it ends with me, again, it's a journey not for the faint-hearted. But when you devote yourself to the process and you honor the journey and trust the process, and you call on divine guidance and support, and you make sure you have loved ones that speak your language, that see you, that understand you, that can hold space for you, you can conquer anything you put your mind to. And that's the big piece that's been fueling me, is that like, I know I can heal my mind. And of course, I'm not a doctor, so I just need to make that disclaimer. But I feel like, in a way, and I've been talking about it with my therapist, that as I'm here to help bridge the worlds of spirit and science, healing your lineage is a part of spirit and science. You were stored in your great grandmother's body, right? You were in her eggs. And I say this a lot with the female body because unlike sperm, we only have a certain amount of eggs in our bodies, right? And the way that I've been seeing it is because I devoted my life to healing my ancestral karma and trauma, and healing so much of my childhood trauma and the subconscious mind, which is formed by the age of 7. So if you have trauma or conditions from the age of 7 that actually aren't in alignment, that's what's going to really dictate and bring about the perception you have about life. That's why I've known I've had these seizures in the last 2 years or so around this time, was because I chose to shed the layers that no longer serve and to be that sacred disruptor. And it's been a challenge when I'm sharing that with my neurologist, because unfortunately, majority of Western doctors, if not all of them, with a very, very small amount that aren't, they've all been conditioned by Big Pharma of take this pill and this is what's going to heal you, but it's really a Band-Aid. It's not getting to the root of the issue. And I'm just grateful to be living in a time where naturopathic medicine is also, there's more of an interest in it, and there's been more of an interest in functional medicine. And we're recognizing that with science, it's not just what we're seeing with the physical body, but are you also incorporating the emotional body, the physical body, the spiritual body, and the mental body? And those are the things that I want to continue to bring awareness about, is that for us to be holistic, we need to honor all the pieces that make us human, all the pieces and the elements that make us who we are in this human experience. And this is why I'm grateful to have a platform like the Sovereign Society podcast, where I can talk about this more and share wisdom and people's stories and have conversations with people who've devoted their whole lives to it. And as someone who's devoted the last 10 years of my life on healing and understanding science and understanding the spiritual world, I'm here to be that bridge. And something, again, my therapist mentioned to me, that he sees me as this bridge between spirit and science. And I'm choosing to run with that. And it's not for the faint-hearted in that journey as well. But with the holidays here, and we're finding ourselves connecting with our ancestors, right? With the holidays coming up, understand that because maybe you've been someone who's aware of what's going on astrologically. I mean, Scorpio season felt like it never ended. Am I right? And now that we're here and Jupiter is finally coming direct and we're entering Sagittarius season, hallelujah. It's just like finally the light at the end of the tunnel. Scorpio season has been so much of like going to the very, very, very depth of your soul. And the fact that this eclipse happened with total eclipses and in Scorpio season and all those retrogrades that we had, like, oh my God, it never ended. It was just like nonstop. And Scorpio is all about the death and the rebirth and the shedding what no longer serves. And you may be aware of that, but your ancestors and your loved ones and your family that you may be coming across with the holidays here, like this is coming out on a Wednesday. Next day is Thursday, Thanksgiving. It's just like, I want you to practice and be compassionate that everyone is doing their best based on their awareness, and they may not be aware of what's going on astrologically. Or if you tell them what's going on astrologically, it may just completely go over their heads. And the key is to not be frustrated. I keep seeing that meme of that guy. I think it was like, he was in Ancient Aliens and he's talking about like the aliens. I think that's right. Tell me if I'm wrong. But that's what your family thinks of you when you're talking about like spirituality. It's true. I know for me, sharing with my loved ones about the hard time that I've been having with taking epilepsy medicine, because I don't even take ibuprofen and I'm very naturopathic in that sense. And I have a hard time just taking this chemical with like crazy side effects. I know that I've gone to the root of what's going on. And the day before I had my seizure at the hospital, I had a whole powerful, like one of the most powerful spiritual experiences I've ever had in my entire life, where I saw my mission and purpose of bridging the worlds of spirit and science, being someone who is passionate about psychedelics in a hospital. And like, I was there drinking Kangen pure alkaline water, and I had my crystals with me. I was pulling tarot. I was listening to music. I was meditating. Like, I was being myself in that sense. But also I felt like, in a way, that the psychedelics I've done in the past, like, were triggered. And it took me on an 8-hour journey where I was able to get to the root of what I feel is my hormone imbalance with sexual trauma that happened with my godfather 21 years ago when I was going through puberty. And I feel like getting to the root of that will not only help me in my future, but it's something that my children, and if I have a daughter, something my daughter won't have to deal with because I've cleared it out. And so what I've seen is with these seizures happening, right, like as I'm bleeding, it's like my body's shedding those layers and those neurons, and new neurons are being fired as well after living with depression for over 30 years. And now my brain's like, whoa, this is trippy and new, and it can be a little overwhelming and scary because our brains are doing our best to keep us safe based off of logic and based off of our past, which is also part of the ancestral conditioning and the inner child within us, which are, I feel, very much go hand in hand, because when you're a child and you're in those developmental ages before you turn 7, you're literally absorbing everything from your ancestors and your caretakers, right? And I know for me, like I said, I've been so devoted to healing myself before having children so that my children don't need to heal from my stuff. And it's like, again, not for the faint-hearted when, you know, coming from an immigrant family who's had like a lot of trauma in our lineage, not just in my lifetime, but my mother's lifetime and my grandmother's lifetime and so on and so forth. Again, we're entering the Aquarian age where we say this ends now. And life up until now has been living from this old conditioning and this old paradigm. But with the eclipse especially that we had, like, I just have felt, I don't know if it's necessarily a seizure, because I'm talking to everyone and they're all feeling the same, but just feeling like there's a new reality that has really been integrated, and we planted so many seeds and purged and released what no longer served during that Scorpio Taurus eclipse portal. And then we had 11/11 right after. Like, that was insane. All these massive portals that we've gone through and we're still integrating, and now we're finally entering a new sun sign and Jupiter's finally going direct. There's still massive changes happening in this 222 lover's year. It's a year of self-love. Not even, if you can start to love yourself, then you can call in your partner, plain and simple, and other opportunities that you desire. It maybe be clients, maybe it be lovers, sponsorships, whatever. You need to start respecting you and loving you and honoring you. I shared this last week. And if you don't, how do you expect other people outside of you to as well? So the biggest thing that I just really want to honor is that with the holidays here and with the wild energies that have been at play, plus, everyone's going through a lot. There's a lot of changes in the world happening right now. There's a lot of fear going on in the world right now. This is the invitation for you to be compassionate with others, your loved ones, and especially yourself. Because again, we're all doing our best here, based on our level of awareness. And so I just want you to recognize and start to become the blessed up version of you whose conditions from your lineage and your ancestors no longer define you if they aren't in alignment with your truth. Yes, it will take work. Yes, it will take devotion. Yes, there are resources and people there to support you, to help you, and you will be able to get through it if you believe in yourself. Just recognize that if these emotions or if these feelings are arising, they're coming up so that you can alchemize, heal, and transmute it. And if someone gets triggered, if you get triggered by a loved one during the holidays, recognize again, it's coming up to be alchemized, healed, and transmuted. You can't bypass the conditions and the patterns and the beliefs that were brought to you but aren't in alignment with you anymore. And unfortunately, if you want to clean that wound, you're going to have to clean it deep within. Shadow work, as here in the Northern Hemisphere, like we're coming into winter and the sun isn't out as long, may arise, but you have support. You will get through this. And when you find yourself going through a challenging time, remember it's all temporary. And it's up to you whether or not you're going to believe this old story or if you're going to believe this new story. And if you want to believe this new story, it's going to take time to really believe in that story by persisting in that story as your reality, by persisting in this new belief as your new reality. And once that becomes a more dominant belief than this outdated story that could have been passed down from your lineage, your ancestors, your younger self, then you'll start to see that blessed up version of you who's been able to work through that. So all in all, please stop beating yourself up. All in all, please ask for help when you need it. All in all, please be compassionate to others. And that's the other thing I want you to know. If your family is used to you being in a depressed state of mind or in an outdated, no longer alignment version of you, they may be tripped out by seeing this new blessed up version of you as well, and just be compassionate with that as well. I think this is going to be a big test of boundaries, a big test of self-love and self-respect and discernment, and a big test and initiation of sovereignty right now. And again, the test is to be kind and to be compassionate because everyone is doing their best based on their level of awareness, including yourself. So please be gentle with yourself. Please be kind with yourself. Please nourish yourself and stay true to what feels in alignment with you. The biggest thing that you can navigate through this is recognizing and remembering that somehow, some way, all of this is unfolding for the greatest good. And it's up to you to get out of your own way. It's up to you to have faith. It's up to you to have persistence. It's up to you to believe. And it's up to you to start to become that new blessed version of you. When you see yourself as someone who's transcended their ancestral trauma and karma, who are you? How are you being? How are you taking care of yourself? How are you respecting your business? How are you respecting your health and well-being? How are you in relationships? And become that version now. Become that version now. The key is for you to get out of your own way. It was crazy. When I was pulling the medicine for this week, which I share in the Sovereign Sunday email, and I share it, I've been sharing it now on Reels on Instagram. I pulled the same card this week as last week with the Knight of Wands. I shuffled. And when I pulled that deck, you can see my expression. If you go on my Instagram at Sabrina Riccio and you go, or you even see it on the shorts on YouTube, you can see my expression, and I'm in shock that I pulled that same card. But it's time for you to come up with that solid plan and take initiative. This is why I decided to offer my one-on-one coaching. I usually only did it as one call, but now I'm doing 2 calls for less than $1,000 for the month to come up with business marketing, sovereign embodiment, strategy, and support with brand ascension. Again, if you want to learn more, you can check out the show notes or the description. And I invite you to take this leap. We need to start to become the blessed up version of ourselves. We need to start to invest in ourselves. We need to start to believe in ourselves, and we need to get out of our own way, because we are the only people, the only thing that is stopping us from getting to that blessed up version of us who has transcended the conditionings and the ancestral karma and trauma and all of that. You don't need to be defined by your past. It's done. And while the past, the present, and future are all here, it's up to you to decide what from your past, the influence that it has on you. Did it bring you wisdom, or does it still have power over you in this now moment, and is what's paving the path for your future, even though it's not in alignment with the version of you you know you want to be? This is all up to you, my love. You are a sovereign being who gets to decide. You make the rules. This is your life. How are you flowing with it? How are you moving forward? How are you taking initiative? Are you being compassionate to yourself? Are you being compassionate to others? And are you believing in yourself, in your worth, and what you know, and getting the support you need to get through it? If the answer is no, it's time for you to take and make that leap of faith and take that action into getting the love that you deserve and getting to the place that you deserve to be at. And I'm here for you. I'm rooting for you. And I just want to say happy holidays. And I'm very thankful and grateful for you all, especially for the love and support I had over the last year, as I'm still continuing to navigate through this journey and going through it and being an activist and an advocate for mental health. But I chose to answer the call to revolutionize the world. And this is why we found our ways to each other, because I know in a way you're here too, to do that same thing in your own heart, in your own way, in your own expression. We're all here to shake shit up and revolutionize the world as sacred disruptors. So if you love this podcast, I just ask for support by sharing it, leaving a like, a rating and review on iTunes. You can even leave a 5-star rating on Spotify. You can go subscribe on YouTube. But for me to continue doing on this journey, and this is the other piece of my boundaries that I'm honoring my boundaries and my well-being by making sure that there is a reciprocity between my community and myself. And if that reciprocity isn't being experienced, then things are changing for me in 2023, and I've come to accept that. But now my health is, something I have to be mindful of. And being someone who's been giving so much from my heart, it's time for me to receive, and it's time for me to respect and honor myself, because this is a way that I'm choosing to end a sacred, I'm being a sacred disruptor for my lineage, because my family has always been overgivers, and now it's time for me to cultivate that reciprocity and to have those boundaries and to go from here. So again, if you continue to listen, if you want to support, just leave a simple rating and review. You can invest in one of my courses. That's like the ultimate way to support, so that I can continue to do this work and just share the love. I put my heart and soul into this because I believe in what we can do together, and I love you. And I know, again, the world is ready for our medicine, and so let's do this together. And again, just be kind to one another and be kind to yourself, and honor yourself for doing the real work, because everyone up and before you hasn't had the same depth and awareness that you've had about the importance of doing this work. So I honor you. I love you. I respect you. And again, thank you for being here, and happy holidays, and I'll be seeing you next week. Take care. Satnam.